We are live at the Intercontinental Process Center. What have you learned?
Here?
Yes. Nothing. No, but right now. What, from this? Nothing.
But we are practicing.
We're just getting started.
Yes, we're getting started and practicing.
And maybe my question wasn't a good question. Maybe it doesn't fit. For me to ask you, what have you learned? It's ambiguous, right?
So what is the question?
Well,
Specific.
the specific question is, perhaps, what did you come here for that you've already got a taste of? That what is something that you did want from this workshop, and that they've already answered in a small way?
I want to know, give me examples of something that I could research, what I want.
That's what you'd like them to do, is to give you a research topic.
Yes.
For Ecuador.
The people do long research. They are like waking the same.
Now, when you say that they're repeated, what is some research that you keep seeing over and over again?
Like how to motivate students.
What is a way to motivate a student?
Form games, music, videos. They like games. How many students do you have in each class?
It depends. Now, some classes can be as small as 6. Like that's if it's an advanced class, and it's nice. Maybe not nice for the center, but nice for the students. Maybe good for a teacher. The largest classes generally only get to about 22 students maximum.
We have 25.
It's tough. It's tough, but maybe not impossible. For classes that size, I don't have any choice but to kind of create like a really strange desk arrangement. Like I have all of the desks, essentially, I'll put them in groups of 4 around the room so that they're facing each other. So I'll take the chairs and stick them in front. But I don't leave it so that they're all going around the room. Then I would think it's impossible to teach 25 if they're all just going all the way to the back. Oh, you're not feeling well? You're tired. You can sleep here. We won't wake you up.
We didn't agree well.
Just use this. I like it.
What's your name?
Jamel? Jackie. Good. Yeah. I think that as soon as your daughter gets back, she will. But don't you wish sometimes they didn't make the joke too? Because you know that's the. It's like, okay, for as funny as this is, which is just funny enough that we can find out chocolate, they're gonna completely erase it by explaining this. PowerPoint jokes are always like this. They always have to be. Okay, so we can see here the guy is coming there. Right, smashing out whatever potential humor was here. But I mean, there are people that are like that too. They'll tell you a joke and then they just sit there and break it down for you.
Right. Shall we start? I know it's a long day. Coming from very far, so you probably having a jet lag like I'm coming now. So we come back to the kind of best research question we just identified. That's the question about the spelling errors are most common in the English conversation running like first year undergraduate English at the University of Tokyo. And somebody wants to ask the question, well, maybe not. So he or she wants to ask the question, so why these students are making these errors. And we have these two questions. Now we can discuss in groups what kind of things should we do trying to answer the two questions. And you can tell me your groups, or maybe you can also share your experiences of doing research in order to answer similar questions, what you usually do. Okay, we just realized that some of you have such enormous, extensive experience in research, and I believe that many of you can share a lot of interesting, important points with other people who may not be there, who may just be starting their research career. So we have
No,
10 minutes
seriously.
for trying to figure out how we can answer the question.
You understand which question? Yeah.
I think this is where you get to flex your research muscle.
What? We have this research questions, questions, and so you need to answer this question. Why?
Read this question.
No, not this question. The fifth question is the top five.
In the top.
Yeah, in number 5 we were supposed
No, I
to
don't
write
want
down 2 questions. So it's about these 2 questions. But we didn't. We only have one. What kind of games improve language?
Yes, I think he said he wants us to answer this one.
And the other, I don't know.
He wants us to answer these particular questions, these 5 questions, not question number 5, but these 5 questions. Okay.
I think the revision of the 5.
All right.
The way they were revised.
All right. Which games do improve language learning? None of them. Just admit it.
Don't let me.
None of them.
None of them. Just
That's it. It's just a waste of time.
enjoyable.
Yes. Helps. It's like giving the kids opium. Here you go, kids. Knock yourself out.
Just to have a great. Okay, get serious. Maybe in light of qualitative and quantitative research.
I think they wanted us to look at these questions again, right?
6 or 5?
For 5.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's write down 1 to 2 questions. Choose. And to make it specific. And And then review.
Bill.
So,
Okay, so what we're stuck with right now is circle number 5, so we don't lose this. We'll probably lose
that one, that one.
so number 5. So number 5, how would we go about finding out whether this is true or not? Like, or excuse me, how would we get the information we need from number 5?
I asked all of their writing portfolios that they've been writing for me all semester, and then categorize and compute the errors.
Miserable. This is why I didn't want to answer this question.
And you would be in charge.
No,
of
I would be in charge of running away. What I would do is I would have them all work, constantly sending things on the computer, not as emails, but on one. Yes, it would all be on one page, whether it was a Facebook page, or for example, a WhatsApp type of thing. But there would be no separate papers. There wouldn't be like, oh, this is an email that you sent. No emails. Nothing would be individualized. Everything would be sent on one screen, so I could sit there and analyze all of it. And why? Because I'm lazy and I refuse to look at all of those papers, and my eyes are old and hurt, and I don't want to read their handwriting.
What's your
But if they're smart enough to use a word corrector and Google Translate, they deserve whatever job they get.
That
Yeah.
would be a
Yeah.
research term. You would be creating a corpus linguistic
Woo!
your student writings.
I created a hootie hoo.
Corpus
All right.
linguistic.
See what I did? Look at you.
But it would be totally based on your student writing. And that would be so easy to do, and you would be able to quantify it in, yes. Label their error categories.
That's it. That's it. They'd have to do it in class.
And that
I
would be
wouldn't.
very-
They would not have the internet would not be available with the computer stuff. It would all be on a isolated network because I wouldn't want them using spell correct. I wouldn't want them having anything correcting their grammar for them or a translator. So it would all have to be something where it was an isolated network and everything went onto my computer. And then I would send it to India and have it corrected.
Send it to Ecuador.
to me together.
Yeah, yes. And I can send it to
That's
you.
genius. Yes.
The difference
Yes.
in errors in different
Yes, with the
Yes.
technology.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a good idea.
Now, see, that to me is more like research than this. Because, look, we're going to say
Okay,
which
sorry for the
spelling errors
interruption.
are the most.
I think I wasn't.
We're going to have to take this from
my
different teachers.
explanation wasn't clear. So please we can
That
get this together. This will sort out. And the issue is we have this question we identified as answerable, which
You know what
is
I'm saying?
what spelling errors are most common in English composition writing of first year undergraduate in English at the University of Tokyo? So how we can answer it means what should we do as a researcher to find answer to these questions? So that involves what sort of thing?
For that, too. Corpus.
Can anybody share what your solution to the problem? Yes? Yes.
The first thing I can say is input, because thinking about it, alone, for me, definitely questions that I would not have come up with, but that heavily affect the result. So having that group input, having someone else to discuss whatever it's going to do with. I think that might.
Yes.
Yes, I think we have to look at the students' writing performance themselves and identify the errors, and then we have to say, let's say, we do some kind of categorization, and then we check the different errors across all papers in order to check what would be the most common mistakes. So it would be like more
Quit. That's what I thought.
Specifically, when you talk about the writing and the input, you're talking about you collecting information about student writing, right?
Supposedly, if I want to look at student writing composition, then definitely I have the composition, student composition, and then I have to look at the, otherwise how can I tell about the, so I have to do the analysis of the student writing themselves.
Can we be a little bit more specific? What do we mean by looking at students' writing? How do we do it?
This is what I'm saying. I'm sorry
Yeah.
if you misunderstand what I'm saying. While you are doing the content analysis, you just read, okay, and then you have to so-called the spelling mistakes, and then you try to categorize. So you have like a table. Okay, things could be related to
That's just weird.
like students mispronounce the word. Let's I think one of my colleagues here mentioned the word play versus pray. So this could be related to the culture, you know, and so on. So this is what we do. And then you do across all the test papers that the students have. And then you find, you tally, you know, so how many mistakes we got here. And then based on this, you can arrive at conclusion.
Okay, thanks, Ted.
We decided to just look at the methodology. It's qualitative or mixture of the two. Then you decide what you want to do to extract.
Yeah, well, mixed methodology study. And
Great. I have to add this too, because one of the things that's missing from the question is this notion of theory around the stages of spelling development. So it's not enough to know how many errors someone makes. If in fact you want to do something about those errors, you have to know how those miscues represent various stages of spelling development. So that part has to be in your analysis. And here, when you were talking about the categories, those are the categories that you actually find. It's not enough to know to make a lot of errors. But what to me is more important, at least as a teacher, I need to know what those errors communicate about the stages of spelling development, their knowledge of the system. So and then from there, you're able to take action. So
thank
you
you.
gotta do
Can we have the gentleman in the middle and then the lady?
Yeah, I think we should be looking at keywords, and there's the first keyword is watch. To see how I think or having qualitative one question, and then you have most common, which is quantitative. The data, see which one of these errors is the most common.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Including
Excellent point.
irresponsible or hurtful or something.
Well, the gentleman.
Since this is also very elementary, because it's first year students, I think there will be elementary. Their writing is probably very guided. So there will not be much variety in the vocabulary they will use. And since we need to know about the problems, spelling problems in general, maybe we will need several examples of their writing, not just one, because we may find over and over again the same words in all the students, and not a larger option of words that may contain different spelling problems. So my recommendation would be don't just one piece of writing, but several.
Yeah.
gonna put that right.
We have a question. We have a question about how many students would we need to observe? How much, how many is enough?
Excellent point. Yep, gentlemen. Oh, same figure. Yeah. Yeah.
My idea is that it's not difficult to find what the error is because we have lots of advanced technology, like we can scan or use some computer ways to find the mistakes or the errors are. But the focus should be on why the students make such kind of mistakes. That is the best or the focus we need to find to improve the students. Because we can, like in our era, whenever we take the exam, we can scan all the students' papers and the computer will analyze what mistakes, what errors they make. But the problem is how or why the students make the mistakes once again, always makes such kind of mistakes.
Yeah.
I work for a small nonprofit with recent migrants from Central America. And the question for me is, I love qualitative research. I think it's harder to measure, but granting agencies and foundations and stuff, because we're always applying for money because we never had any money. They want quantitative stuff. And how can we translate this qualitative data? And I think one person here and somebody else over here mentioned looking for things that you can count. So it's kind of a mixed method approach.
I think that's the table there.
Yes, that you're looking at qualitative data, but how can you translate it into numbers that somebody who might give you money for your program can understand? So it's a constant struggle.
Yeah, it's not a question I can answer easily. I really have the same challenge when we seek funding too.
You can take a smaller piece, right? If you have to do the quantitative analysis, like who's succeeding in your program, right? So then you can also answer the question because they want numbers. So who's succeeding is quantitative, and then you can say why. Well, why they're succeeding? So you just take a smaller piece of that quantity, and then you analyze it with qualitative methods.
Well,
this is why.
And people love stories.
Right. Exactly.
So personalizing the data with the qualitative.
I think we have this lady and then, yeah.
Well, okay, so just kind of going back to the initial question, because first analyzing this specific research question, the first focus is on the what, and then following up research could potentially be on the why.
Why,
So
yeah.
just addressing the what, when we talked about getting input, we're finding out initially how we're going to go about the methodology of the research. And I think that this table near the wall touched on that. Before we can analyze the spelling errors, what kind of samples are we going to be taking? When are we going to take them? What's the size of the sample? Those are the things that we talked about here, and getting that input from your colleagues. That's what's going to help you kind of make those decisions on how to go about the initial research.
Yes, this goes back to the third piece where we had this models of the arrows and the different steps for me. Because when we ask the question that says what and the most, or what it was, what and most common, that the formulation of the question is what to me says that it is quantitative. But if we ground it in theory, and if we look at the foundation from literature and we read, we would recognize that there are qualitative questions there that must be answered. And so then the question would have to be reformulated to actually ask the question that they want answered.
Yes.
Yes, so it just goes back to that original piece.
You're mentoring me and many of others.
I'm just thinking about it.
It's excellent point. Yeah, excellent point, yeah. Do we have, okay, we can.
Okay, let me get back to the what, and I'm totally agree with that lady, that table, and we should focus on that. It's the first year undergraduate students. And according to my research experience, I think we should first focus on what's the research constraints. And spelling errors, in spelling and pronunciation, those kind of English language errors, we have very low. So we should just focus on that. And later, I think not all the research studies or projects are very smooth. So when we make something in the middle way, we can just adjust a little bit whatever is quantitative or qualitative. Yeah, and we just adjust it by the research experience and the input from colleagues or university, and then we can get a lot more strength and from those other people, then can make that not so perfect but could fit the data you get. So whatever is grounded theory, what is theories, that's
Okay, thank you. Thank you for all your contributions. I'm sure many of you still have something to say, but for the sake of time, we have to continue. I think all the contributions are very valuable and very insightful.
Could you help us with the question we asked about how many students would make it valid when we're collecting the data? How many more or less?
Well,
What if we have 20 people in our undergrad club?
This is called a stage we have to make methodological decisions. When we start trying to answer in this particular research question, we have to make several important methodological decisions. The first thing relates to the data collection. What sorts of data should we collect? How many of them should we collect? And what kind of data conditions will this data be collected and so on? An answer to this kind of question depends on a lot of other variables. For instance, how much money do we have? Right?
Should we conduct this research with 20 people, let's say?
It depends on why we want to do this research. If we want to do research to inform, say, the whole university's lecturers in Japan to deal with first-year students' errors, and then we probably have to. Well, this is a starting point, but the finding could be used for other lectures as well. But if it's just for lecturers teaching these students, 20 students should be fine. Right? So there's other contextual variables that help us to make data collection decisions, but these are very important questions we all have to answer when we start collecting data. And then we have to use the kind of theoretical input, data coding procedures to analyze the data we have collected from. Also, we have to make decisions about which theoretical framework we have to use or which coding category and kind of typology we want to adopt when we analyze data. So these are a variety of yes.
It seems so straightforward, spelling error, but when you start getting in and getting dirty with the data, it gets complicated.
Yes.
Is it a spelling error? Is it not? You can take any spelling error. It gets messy.
Yeah, well, it could be a spelling error or some learner's agency in creative language use, right? So.
Spelling error.
This is some sort of a methodological or theoretical framework decisions we have to make in answering these questions. And I'm sure you all have heard about this so-called qualitative and quantitative research, or qualitative versus quantitative research. So anyone want to share about how much you know about this division between qualitative and quantitative research? Or in your experience, what sort of a methodological approach you usually use when doing research? Yeah.
I can say a lot of what we do starts out as qualitative. It's pedagogy, so we present, a fact, or we teach about something, And then we look at if it works, how we can make it work for the larger groups. So say we're teaching it one-on-one. So we look at how we can make it work for the larger group or for students at different learning levels, how whatever works can work for everyone, and not just that one student. So it's definitely qualitative, why it works. Not necessarily quantitative because it starts with one and then spreads out to the other.
Yes?
I usually use mixed method because I think it's to balance the strengths and the weaknesses of only one. And I think in North America, most of people, especially for the editorial journals or some free, they like quantity. It's very productive of numerical data. But sometimes we get back to see the natural research, and we want to know the depth of people's, especially teachers or students' opinions, perceptions, and how they do that, what they think about that, and what's behind that, what's the implication of that. So I think that interviews or some like those two are very good in some research. But generally, my plans depends on what kind of research you are doing or you plan to do, and what's the participants or cohorts you are handling at this moment. So all this kind of depends, and you make decisions.
Any experience sharing about your own research experience? Yeah.
In qualitative research, it's good to have more than one set of eyes to look at the. Somebody talked about coding. I can't remember. But if you're going to code the data, you have to have agreement. We used to use 2 out of 3 agreement about what a particular word meant in context of the whole thing. So just one set of eyes, you're going to get caught up in your own biases and your own prejudices and your own. But if you have more than one person, and preferably 3, if you have access to that, to go over your data with you, the qualitative stuff, and read through it, and if you can get agreement on this means this, this means this, this means this, then you have the material to code it quantitatively. Does that make sense?
Yeah. We sometimes go member checking or inter-rater.
Yeah,
reliability. It sounds very quantitative to me. That, or you have triangulation, these kind of methods. It looks like you know quite a lot of the kind of thing we've been talking about. So, anyone largely, well, when you do research, largely use qualitative methods? Qualitative methods. Okay, a few of them. How about quantitative methods? So, okay, some of you are actually already using mixed methods, right? I'll just skip quickly through this. This is a diagram. Yes.
I was thinking about these, let's say, decision whether to use qualitative or quantitative methods. Thinking in terms of cooking.
Very nice.
I mean, a decision like that would be similar to asking yourself, well, am I going to use the microwave, the oven, the barbecue? And I don't think that's the point. I think that the point is, what am I going to cook today? If I'm going to, if I'm going to make an omelette, then there's a special or a preferred way to cook that, okay, to prepare that. And I think in research, it's very much the same. Depending on what you want to research about and the kinds of data that you will collect, then your methods will be more, I mean, quantitative or qualitative or mixed methods approach will be more, let's say, feasible or preferable. So I don't think it's a question of I don't think it's a very good question to say, well, do you do more qualitative or quantitative? I think that the answer will be, well, it depends on what I'm doing.
Yes, I accept this critique. Although I asked you simply want to find out whether you have been using quantitative methods or qualitative methods. As you said, well, whether you actually use particular methodological approach, it depends on, not on because I'm in favor of qualitative or I'm in favor of quantitative, it depends on the questions we ask, right? But there are a few occasions where sometimes our researchers' personal preference will dictate the kind of methodological approach we use. It happens, right? This is just sort of a diagram of so-called qualitative versus quantitative. Oh, this is too fast. It's quite complicated, which that's why it may take some time to explain the whole thing, right? That's why I'll skip as soon as possible. There's different kind of data and to be collected and different way of analyzing them, and also there's different ways what we call epistemology and yeah, the theory of how do we know something. And as some of you already mentioned, that the decision we made about methodology is to do with whether particular method must answer the question or linked to these and programmatic research method depends on whether these methods help answer the question and whether it links to existing theories or works, some of you already mentioned, whether they're useful. And also, it's important for us to consider whether particular methods are ethical. And our research, the decision we made about it, research is clear and coherent with different kind of, the theoretical framework and research question, and also the findings. Oh, okay. This is the. Yeah. So much. And this is just the sample of data analysis. Okay, now, after we collect the data, now assume many of us will have different kind of data. What sort of challenge have you experienced when you at the stage of analyzing the data? So we spend a few minutes to think about the kind of difficulties and the challenges we experience when analyzing different kind of data. Okay, let's say 5 minutes.
Okay. What challenges do we have in data analysis? Okay, here we go. And let's do something amazing here. It's just good. I think we have other challenges besides data analysis at the table. Good. No, it's okay. You need a MRI or anything? Yeah, just the water will get you. Okay. No? Okay. Secret? That's our question. What do we have in challenges in data analysis? Well, for example, that woman over there said, even if we have the answers here for what spelling errors are most common, we don't know what they had been learning before their first year. Now, that doesn't really matter. It doesn't take anything out of it. If it turns out that they make these 7 spelling errors again and again, it isn't really necessary for us to find out that they had poor English classes because we're not looking for that right now. We're just trying to find out what their spelling errors are, and then we can make some predictions afterward, either how to fix that or in their pre-learning, pre-university. So challenge number 1, I would say, is who were they before? Who were the subjects before they were subjects? Right? I don't know how to phrase that in a nicer way. But we don't know what this first year of undergraduates is all gone through. We also don't know the quality of the teacher. For example, maybe they'll say, oh, all 9 of them, or excuse me, all 900 students keep making the same 20 errors, and we find out that none of their teachers even had a BA or something like that. I know it's the University of Tokyo, and it's unlikely. But it seems like we'd have to know something about the teachers in order to understand something about the problems.
That would be a challenge.
Quality of the teaching.
Quality of the instruction. Can't measure it. You'd have to find out if you couldn't.
Also, whether, like, for example, they're saying the University of Tokyo, and then we're talking about the control group. If you did it at another university for other first-year undergraduates, and they all made the same types of mistakes as the University of Tokyo one, that changes the whole nature of your answer. It means that you really haven't found something out about first-year English at the University of Tokyo, but found it out about everybody, everywhere, at any time. How many people have you met when you're at these TESOL things that can't pronounce "the" properly? Anywhere in the world. Even England, where this whole thing kind of started. They say "fuck." So, for example, instead of saying something, we'll say something. Because it's hard for people who aren't getting educated. Like my daughter, for example, is learning English in Morocco, and she's fluent, but she'll say something, or something. Yeah, something. Or other. She won't say other, but other. It's the other one to people all over the place. But I could do a thing like, what type of thought errors are common in this school for first-year undergraduates? The question's too specific, so I'd say specific versus general discoveries. Come on, team, let's go. Come on, we want to outproduce these other people.
Yes, you need to one by one. Yes.
You could fall asleep, for example.
Yes.
Not you. Just.
Yeah. Me too. Yeah, the number of students. We have 26. Secondary, they have 18. And I think this is year undergraduate. Primer curso.
Okay, so you're saying one of the challenges is that if you're doing it right, there's going to be a lot of it. Okay, just right. Masses of work. Right, lack of time. Too much work, too little time. Too little resources. That was another thing. There aren't enough resources. Lack of resources. I'm sorry, can you just... About, for example, if we were doing it for this one in particular, or just any of them, like what would we use to collect the data?
Criteria for the
having difficulties
Usually, what counts as data?
analyzing different kind of data, including
is it a handwriting error or is it actually
so-called
spelling?
quantitative data, or analyzing data quantitatively, or analyzing data qualitatively. Yes.
Quantitative data gives you a lot of rich data, and it gives you a lot of meaning. In our program, we use both quantitative and qualitative, but the opportunity cost with qualitative data is that there's the time factor. Going through and analyzing each piece of data is a lot more difficult than maybe with a quantitative study.
Mm-hmm. It's like with quantitative data, survey data, you just put it into a computer and it generates results, right? Amazing. What kind of other challenges do the folks here experience? Yes.
In our case, the place where I work, the problem is more interesting questions emerge from the data. So then students want to go for those questions instead of focusing on the one they initially formulated. And so it's like this. It's a very overwhelming process. Because we try to do it as rigorous as possibly. So we get qualitative data, we get different instruments so we can triangulate the so we get quantitative and different instruments for triangulate the qualitative. We compare the two, and then of course we end up with massive amounts of data that give us more questions and more things to do, but we don't have time. Because what I do is I supervise research for students to a master's program. So they have this period of time they have to get it done in, and like it's very difficult to focus.
Well, yes, it's always difficult to keep focused on something where you have so much data, different data. It's overwhelming process. But my feeling is, well, we always remember why we have to do this research.
I just wanted to make the point that I think with qualitative data collection, that memoing process is very important, so that as you're engaging in your data collection, you're always writing notes to yourself every week or every day, and you're just free writing. You're reflecting on what your theories are, what's appearing, because qualitative research questions can change. And if your question, it's a very common thing. Anthropologists, they suspect you if your question doesn't change. And I think qualitative research, our questions can change. And if you stay on top of your analysis with this kind of memo process, then it's not a big shock at the end where you really have to redo everything. You've already kind of started to change your analysis.
Yes.
To try to connect these two things, though, oftentimes we'll go back to quantitative data months or years after because we simply didn't have time to look at this one particular aspect of it that we think might be interesting at the time itself. So annotation, what we usually just call annotation in quantitative research, I don't know if it has other implications, but like writing down exactly what you're doing, exactly what these variables are measuring, exactly what kind of analysis you did on it and why you decided to, put it into this particular model. Annotating everything really helps because otherwise I came back to data like 6 months afterwards, and I had no idea why I did this particular model. I had no idea. I was like, I have no idea what variable x27b means. I don't know what that is anymore, and then it's lost, right? So no matter what research you're doing, I think annotating your work is massively important. Write more than you could possibly write to yourself